Okay, so imagine this. You hear about a company, right?
Mhm.
And they're not just claiming crazy results like 20x, maybe even 50x ROI on marketing spend.
Mm.
They're actually winning major global awards for how they do it. And this is all just like a few years after they even started.
Yeah.
You got to wonder, what is their secret sauce? What are they doing?
That's exactly what we're digging into today. This deep dive, it's all focused on Kia Ora Digital, an agency that started pretty quietly in New Zealand and Australia,
Right.
and has just, well, exploded onto the global scene incredibly fast.
So we've got a good pile of sources to work from here. We're looking at some analysis reports, company docs that kind of lay out their philosophy and the details from those big industry awards they've been picking up.
Yep. And our mission today, it's pretty straightforward, but honestly, quite fascinating. We really want to unpack what makes Kia Ora Digital tick. You know, what's actually unique about their spin on SEO and revenue, and why does their particular model seem to be driving such fast growth, not just for them, but also getting these really eye-popping results for their clients.
Exactly. So if you want the quick, thorough rundown on a company that seems to be genuinely shaking things up in digital marketing, well, you're in the right place.
Let's do it.
All right, let's jump in then. Every story like this has a beginning. And for Kia Ora Digital, that starting point was, what, 2021?
That's right, 2021. They officially kicked things off then, initially based out of New Zealand. And the focus, right from day one, was helping businesses grow using organic search.
And the sources, they introduced us to the co-founders Ben McIntyre, Simon Small, and Dan Sim. What jumped out at me immediately was their background.
Oh, yeah.
It's really steeped in the software as a service world, SaaS. Ben had this deep web dev experience, especially e-commerce. And Simon, he's noted as an early pioneer in generative AI.
Yeah. And that SaaS background, it feels really important. It's not just like a footnote. It probably shapes how they approach everything. Thinking about service delivery maybe more like a scalable product. Definitely demanding measurable ROI. And crucially, investing early in building their own tech. That's pretty unusual for a brand new agency, and it kind of hints at why their approach might be different.
And even their name, Kia Ora, it feels very intentional.
It does, doesn't it? Kia Ora, it's such a core Maori greeting in New Zealand. Means, have life, be healthy.
Okay.
So choosing that name, yeah, it anchors them in their NZ roots, but metaphorically, it perfectly fits their mission. Breathing life, health, and growth into their clients' businesses. It's actually quite smart branding, connecting culture and purpose like that.
So they kick off in NZ, build that initial foundation. Where next?
Well, the logical step was Australia. They expanded there fairly quickly, used it as a bit of a testing ground, maybe.
Makes sense.
Refining strategies, learning the market nuances before they started looking further out.
And it seems like that refinement really paid off because you fast forward just 3 years to 2024.
Yeah, incredible timing.
And bam, the awards start coming. And not just local ones. Best Global Startup Agency at the Global Search Awards. Best Startup Agency at the APAC Search Awards. I mean, that's a pretty staggering validation so early, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Winning at that level, global and regional, it validates their whole approach on a massive scale. And the award details, they specifically mention their 4-month sprint methodology and that proprietary revenue forecast tech as key reasons they won.
Okay.
It tells you the industry is seeing something genuinely new and, well, effective happening there.
Which kind of brings us neatly to the core of what they actually do. They don't just say we do SEO.
No, not at all.
Their positioning is much sharper. Performance SEO agency, e-commerce, organic search, and RevOps agency. And there's this intense focus on profit, right? Not just vanity metrics like clicks or traffic.
Exactly. Now, they do offer the full range of organic search services, local SEO, national, international, complex, technical migrations for big sites, content, links, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
But their specialization in e-commerce, that runs deep. The sources highlight their official Shopify experts, but they work across all the big platforms. BigCommerce, Magento, WooCommerce, you name it. And that breadth within e-commerce is important because it suggests they can probably help pretty much any online retailer, whatever platform they're on or how big they are.
And this RevOps piece they mention alongside organic search that feels a bit different from how RevOps is usually defined. maybe more broadly?
Yeah, based on the sources, their use of RevOps, it doesn't seem to be that full end-to-end sales, marketing, customer service integration you might see in a huge company.
Okay.
It seems much more specifically applied to maximizing the revenue that comes from search channels.
Oh,
Think of it maybe as revenue operations, but seen purely through the lens of search performance.
got it. So how does that search-focused RevOps thinking translate into their day-to-day strategy?
Well, that's where their blended search methodology really comes into play. This seems absolutely central to how they operate.
Blended search.
Yeah, it's all about breaking down those traditional walls, those silos between paid search PPC and organic search SEO,
Right.
and getting them to work like a single coordinated system.
Yeah.
And the goal, overall profit, and importantly, cutting out wasted spend.
So they're actively saying, hey, don't treat your SEO and PPC budgets or
Yeah.
strategies as totally separate things.
Precisely. The sources detail how this works. Like, they audit client accounts to find places where they might be, pointlessly paying for clicks on keywords they already rank well for organically.
The cannibalization issue.
Exactly that. And they use paid search almost like a rapid testing lab.
How so?
Well, if a keyword converts really well on PPC quickly, that's super valuable intel for prioritizing where to put the longer-term organic effort.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Test fast with paid, then build sustainable organic.
Right. And they actively work to stop that channel cannibalization we mentioned, making sure you're not basically bidding against yourself. The ultimate aim isn't just boosting clicks in SEO or PTC, it's maximizing the profit you get from search, looking at it holistically.
That definitely runs counter to how a lot of businesses manage their digital marketing, keeping things very separate. It forces a more strategic view of the interplay.
Yeah.
But, how tough is it to actually pull off that kind of integrated strategy? Does it need a ton of coordination?
Well, that's likely where that operational discipline comes in, maybe influenced by that sauce background we talked about. The sources imply there's a really high level of integration between the teams running these channels. So that coordination happens smoothly, not just on paper.
Okay.
It's definitely more complex than just running separate campaigns in silos, no doubt, but potentially much, much more efficient if they execute it well.
And a massive piece of how they seem to execute this and how they back up those really bold claims is their technology.
Right, the world first tech, as they call it, that revenue forecasting tool. And it's proprietary. They built it themselves.
And what does it actually do, in simple terms?
Okay, so it's designed to predict, using specific numbers, the exact potential revenue boost for a business.
Wow.
Based on making specific improvements in their Google keyword rankings.
Yeah.
So it's basically saying, look, if we move you from, say, position 7 to position 3 for this group of keywords, given your current conversion rates and average order value, you can expect to see roughly this much extra revenue each month.
Whoa. Okay, so it's not just saying SEO is good for business.
Yeah.
It's trying to put a specific dollar amount on the potential return
Yeah.
before the main work is even done.
That's the core claim, yeah. And that's how they justify those really eye-popping ROI figures we mentioned earlier, the 20x to 50x monthly ROI, or sometimes they tie it specifically to the 4-month sprint, like 10x to 50x ROI from that work using the tool. They actually state clients can see their exact profit potential before you spend $1. Now, look, achieving 50x ROI consistently across every single client, that's an extraordinary claim in marketing.
Sure is.
You have to assume it depends heavily on, where the client starts, their industry, their margins, all that. But the sources definitely present it as a repeatable outcome they aim for.
That kind of predicted ROI upfront must completely change the sales conversation with a potential client. Does the source material give any hints about how they actually achieve that level of predictive accuracy? Because Google search is, pretty dynamic.
Yeah, it is. The sources emphasize it's a mix. It's historical data, market analysis, and then their own proprietary algorithms. They don't obviously reveal the exact secret sauce of the algorithm.
Naturally.
It is proprietary tech. But the claim is that by combining deep SEO expertise with this computational analysis, they can forecast reliably enough to basically build their service model around it. It seems to be a huge part of their competitive advantage.
And having that predictive power feels like it would be almost essential for their other big thing, the speed advantage, that 4-month sprint methodology.
Exactly. Traditional SEO, it's often positioned as this long-term game. You need 6 months, 12 months, maybe more before you see really substantial results.
Right. Slow burn.
Yeah. Their 4-month sprint, it's explicitly designed to deliver tangible, measurable results within that much faster time frame. And that speed, combined with being able to forecast the results beforehand, that was a key reason they won those startup awards.
And they're definitely not sleeping on the massive changes happening with artificial intelligence and search either.
Not at all. They actually claim to be the first to connect SEO, PPC, and AI into a single system built for profit.
That's a bold claim.
It is. And they list services like AI marketing and AI LLM optimization. And remember, we mentioned co-founder Simon Small.
The early generative AI pioneer.
Yeah, he's search. Oh, an LLM. That stands for a large language model, the tech behind things like ChatGPT.
Okay, got it. So they're using AI not just maybe internally for efficiency, but actively optimizing for how AI is changing search results.
That's what it sounds like. The sources indicate they're adapting strategies to, optimize for AI-driven features like the summaries and answer boxes you see now.
Yeah, the SGE stuff.
Right. Enhancing user experience signals that AI might value, using structured data more heavily, and also using AI tools for tasks like helping with content creation or doing technical analysis faster. They seem to be proactively tackling the reality that search isn't just 10 blue links anymore.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got amazing tech, these fast sprints, integrated strategies, AI awareness, and this laser focus on profit. Who are they actually applying all this to, and what do the results look like, on the ground for real clients?
Well, their core target, it's definitely e-commerce merchants, especially those already doing, say, 7 or 8 figures in revenue. And they have a strong leaning toward Shopify, where they're official experts.
Okay.
But what surprised me a bit reading through the sources was just how diverse the industries are where they list clients. It's not just e-commerce, it's automotive, food and beverage, fashion, luxury goods, vets, real estate, even sauce companies, trades, all sorts.
Huh. So the core methods are adaptable then?
It suggests that, yeah. While e-commerce might be the sweet spot, the underlying methodology seems flexible.
And the client numbers mentioned, they vary a bit across sources, but they show the rapid growth. See numbers like 100 plus SUE, 150 plus SUE, even up to 500 plus clients, depending on when the report was from. But let's get into the results numbers they report for those clients.
Right, this is where the rubber meets the road. Beyond those big ROI figures we talked about, they report some pretty impressive averages across their client base. Things like 120% increase in average organic revenue.
Wow, average increase.
Yeah. And a 335% average increase in organic traffic.
Those are hefty averages. Can we make that more real with some specific examples from the sources? Any names?
Absolutely. The reports mention specific clients, like Bondivet, who apparently saw that 335% jump in organic traffic and 120% increase in organic revenue.
Okay, those numbers match the averages.
Yeah. Then there's VNY, a UK client, who reportedly got even higher traffic growth, 578% with a 110% revenue lift. Mijel's, they're a craft supplies retailer, reported a massive 538% increase in organic revenue based on a 99% traffic increase.
I mean, 538% revenue increase from organic search? That's huge.
It's pretty remarkable, yeah.
Any other standout examples?
Let's see. Blissful Little Home, traffic up 118%, revenue up 360%. And they list other successful cases across different e-commerce niches too. Names like Baked & Co., Bespoke Letterpress, Moss Living, Creatures of Leisure, all showing significant organic traffic and, crucially, revenue growth.
Okay, the numbers are impressive. But beyond the metrics, what do clients actually say about working with Kia Ora Digital? What's the vibe?
Well, the client testimonials that are featured, they paint a pretty consistent picture. You see clients praising them for delivering consistent growth, which is key, calling them metric-focused, knowledgeable, transparent, and mentioning a high degree of accountability.
Accountability is a big one in agency land.
It really is. And a theme that comes up repeatedly is clients saying they feel like the Kia Ora team becomes an extension of our team.
That's high praise. That implies a real partnership.
Exactly. And you combine that feeling with a reported 95% client retention rate.
95%, okay.
It really suggests their model isn't just about quick wins, but about building sustainable, trusting relationships for the long haul.
It definitely points towards a culture that really prioritizes results and clear communication, builds that trust.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah. And that kind of success and trust must have really paved the way for their incredibly ambitious global push. Where are they actually physically operating now?
Okay, so they've got established bases in New Zealand. HQ is in Queenstown. Australia, HQ in Melbourne. And they cover significant service areas in both countries. More recently, they opened a hub in London to serve the UK market.
But the really big story on the global front seems to be the speed of their expansion, especially that crazy multi-market entry in 2024.
Yeah, it was incredibly fast. Around June 2024, suddenly they announced expansion into the UK, the wider EMEA region, Brazil, and India, almost all at once.
Whoa.
And then either right alongside that or immediately after, a major launch into the United States market as well.
Just entering the U.S. market alone is a massive challenge for any company,
Yeah.
let alone doing it while also launching in multiple other huge global regions practically simultaneously. I mean, that says a lot about their confidence in their model, right?
Yeah.
That it can scale and transfer.
It certainly does. The sources mention they're applying lessons they learned from that initial NZ to Australia expansion, adapting strategies for each new market.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, too, they seem to leverage their own international SEO skills, not just to expand their own business, but also to help their clients expand globally using search, sort of practicing what they preach.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. Thinking about everything we've discussed, what are the absolute core things that make Kia Ora Digital stand out? Because let's face it, the digital marketing agency world is very crowded.
Yeah, it is. Based on everything we've unpacked, I'd say it boils down to these key things. First, that relentless profit-first philosophy.
Right.
Second, the unique proprietary revenue forecasting tool. That seems huge.
Yeah.
Third, the strategic integration with their blended search idea, really uniting SEO and PPC for profit. Fourth, the speed they promise with those 4-month sprints. Fifth, those consistently reported high ROI figures, backed by case studies. Sixth, the external validation from those major global awards. And finally, that deep, specialized expertise, specifically in e-commerce.
So how does that whole package position them against, say, more traditional agencies?
Well, they seem to be aiming to offer something fundamentally different, maybe a more transparent, more predictable, and potentially more accountable path to getting actual quantifiable profit growth driven by search.
Yeah.
Rather than just selling hours or services or even just traffic.
Yeah.
They're kind of selling a projected financial outcome.
And circling back to the culture, we can sort of infer from all this, what does it suggest about the company itself?
It really points towards a culture that's highly performance-driven, obviously, deeply client-focused, with a real emphasis on being transparent, relentlessly innovative, especially with their tech, and built on accountability for results. Their stated mission, to help businesses grow through the power of organic search and become one of the fastest-growing organic search and RevOps agencies in the world. It aligns perfectly with this aggressive, results-first identity.
So looking ahead then, what seems like the next big chapter for Kia Ora Digital?
Well, continued aggressive global expansion seems like a given based on their recent moves.
For sure.
But a potentially massive development that the sources flag is the idea of eventually releasing that revenue forecast tool to the public.
As a standalone product.
Potentially, yeah. Maybe as a SaaS platform, that would perfectly leverage their founders' backgrounds, wouldn't it?
Totally.
And it would open up a whole new revenue stream, pushing them even further towards being a tech-enabled service company, or maybe even a tech company that also offers services.
Interesting.
Plus, you have to assume they'll keep pushing hard on AI integration to constantly refine their methods and stay ahead.
Okay. So we've done a pretty deep dive here into Kia Ora Digital. We've traced this really rapid journey from, a startup in New Zealand to suddenly being a global player.
Yeah, fueled by this unique tech and this intense focus on quantifiable results.
We've seen how that profit-first mindset, combined with blended search, fast execution, proprietary forecasting, how it's driving those impressive client numbers and earning them serious industry recognition. Which leaves us, and you listening, with a really interesting thought to chew on as you process all this. Given their incredibly fast expansion and that core focus on quantifying potential profit before a client even signs on the dotted line, what does this whole approach signal about where digital marketing agency models might be heading in the future?
Yeah, does their specific blend of proprietary tech, speed, and that upfront financial forecasting, does it fundamentally challenge the traditional ways that businesses usually buy and value services like SEO and PPC?
And, how might this potentially disruptive model start to reshape the competitive landscape for digital agencies?
Yeah.
Not just in one market, but globally over the next few years.
Definitely something to mull over as you think about what really drives growth in this constantly changing digital world.